Adam Meredith, you've been Her Majesty's Inspector of Railways since 2002. Why do you think accidents are still happening on user-worked crossings?
Well, I think it's a combination of misuse, principally, by people who either don't understand the crossing controls and the way that they can help control the risk, and also an element of accidental or unplanned use of the crossing, where the risk probably hasn't been addressed by employers and other users using the crossings. I think it serves to illustrate the number of accidents at them, while fortunately hasn't been of a catastrophic nature as far as passengers on trains is concerned. It's clearly been there've been a number of fatal accidents involving people who are actually crossing the line either as pedestrians or as vehicle drivers. The level of accidents that we're still having with them and the number of near misses that occur as well illustrate that the risk is there and it is significant in relation to these crossings.
What dangers do businesses need to be aware of when dealing with user-worked crossings?
Well, the principal danger is the risk of collision. Clearly, the risk of a train colliding with some of the modern agricultural machinery, which is quite a size these days. With quite a lot of fuel and quite a lot of metal there, is a significant issue. And when you consider that trains are getting faster, more frequent, and the latest designs of trains are actually more lightweight than people's traditional idea of a train, the risk of collision, both for the train and for the vehicle driver, is something to be taken seriously, and we would encourage businesses to consider it as part of the management of transport safety within their undertaking. So rather than just looking at the railway and saying what do we need to do about that, we'd like to see them include it as one of the hazards in the profile that they have for transport safety within their business.
How can businesses protect their people when using user-worked crossings?
There are a number of things that they can do. The principal thing for an employer to do is to familiarise himself with the crossing or the crossings that are being used, because there's quite a lot of variation in terms of what's provided at each crossing, particularly for these essentially private crossings across the railway. Firstly, you can understand what the controls are that are provided there. So if there are gates or if there are telephones or sometimes there are miniature warning lights, it's to understand what's provided there, the crossing surface, and why things are there to enable you to get across from one side of the railway to the other safely. Then what you have to do is make sure that your employees or your contractors or your visiting businesses using the crossing understand what those controls do. So you may need to brief your staff, or you may need to test their understanding of those controls. But what you can certainly do is draw up a method of work and think about a safe system of work for crossing the railway. If, for example, you were doing agricultural contracting and you knew that for 6 hours in a day you were going to be crossing backwards and forwards with tractors and trailers at harvest time, then you could, for example, think about using a banksman, or effectively somebody to use the telephones and open the gates ready after getting permission from the signaller, so that he could ring the signaller, he could get permission to cross, say, one tractor or maybe two tractors at a time, and as long as the tractor drivers have been briefed to obey what the banksman tells them, he can manage the crossing, and the tractors can cross backwards and forwards under his control. Or if you wish to, you could approach the railway operator, which might be Network Rail, or there are other railways around, such as Heritage Railways, which also have these types of crossings. You could approach the railway operator and ask them to provide somebody to do that for you as well, and you could factor that into your method of work. There are other things that an employer can do to plan ahead. One of the things that we particularly encourage employers to do who have to cross the railway on these crossings is to think about foreseeable abnormal situations. So if, for example, you've got a fairly simple crossing where the main safety risk control measure is actually being able to see the train, say, 3/4 of a mile away because it's a straight piece of railway, and the visibility is good, that's fine, but it's foreseeable that it may get dark or it may be pouring down with rain, or you might have a vehicle that's too long or too heavy to cross quickly enough, and that's the time when you needed to have thought ahead, plan for that foreseeable abnormal situation, and instruct your workers, well, if it goes dark, then you need to be contacting the railway operator using the alternative contact number, or we'll suspend the operations until the following day in order to ensure safety. And I think it's worthwhile, while I wouldn't wish to get a disproportionate amount of effort put into just managing the risk on the railway, I think coming back to what I said earlier, managing it as part of your transport safety system, it's certainly something that you should be thinking about. And we've talked to a number of employers and certainly a number of corporate users of these user work crossings, and there are a number of people. You only have to look at the number of businesses that deliver articles, internet shopping and things like that to all households really, which may be farms or maybe other businesses as well. Just simply the number of courier operations there are mean that many more people go over these crossings than in the days when we just had one Royal Mail delivery service really.
Thank you for your time, Adam.
Thank you.